That is the biggest misconception out there. And every time you talk to somebody, they say, I don't have money to put away. And when you start talking to them, all of a sudden they're like, so you're telling me I could put this much amount to start with? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, you can definitely start with us just with the small amount. I believe that the younger crowd and the younger generation, they're much more educated than we are. If I knew what they do now, definitely I would have been starting putting money away. So a good foundation to have is to make sure that you have money if anything happens to you. That's basically the life insurance component of it. Because you want to make sure that if you have a family or if someone is depending on you, that there is money that's going to be left behind for them. It's just a matter of how and when. The way we look at it is the money that we're going to leave behind is so that our families are going to benefit from it, so that they're not going to be struggling if anything does happen to you, especially if you're the breadwinner. Save money, not a big amount, just enough. That number, the only person that could say that is yourself. What is that amount? It could be $1,000, it could be $2,000, $3,000. The things that you think are needs are actually wants. And the next thing you know, when you really list your budget, oh wow, this is actually not a need. Yeah, and then then you're looking at it like, okay, so now I'm broke because I'm spending money on things that I shouldn't have.
Hello and welcome to the 9/10 podcast, where possession is 9/10 of the law. Did you know that here in the USA, even if you worked a minimum wage 9-to-5 job, you could still end up retiring a millionaire? What? Yes, that is true. Today, we'll be talking to a good friend of mine that is a financial coach. If you didn't know what that is, his job is to get his clients to retire millionaires. He works with Primerica, one of the largest publicly traded companies that provides insurance, investment, and financial services to middle-income families in the USA and Canada. With over $90 billion in assets under management. If you like this kind of content, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. Please welcome to the 9/10 podcast, one of my oldest friends, Francis Imbuido.
Welcome, folks. Today we have one of my really good friends from way back in the day, huh? Way back in the day. No, I've known this guy since we were, 7 or 8 years old, right?
Yeah, that was way back.
Way back when we were around first, second grade. There was this kid in class that whenever it was math class, he just knew everything. The teacher would just ask a question, boom. This guy was just a math genius ever since we were like 7 or 8. And ever since, he's been a brainiac. So we lost touch after high school, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because I moved here to the US at the time. So I think that's the reason why I lost touch with everybody.
That was sophomore year?
Sophomore year in high school, actually. Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, sophomore year, high school, this guy, lost touch with him. And then how many years later, 30 years later, we bump into each other? I
don't even know, man, a long time. But after that, it's been a while back.
Yeah. So we bump into each other in a different country. And we found out that we're both living in America now.
Yes.
And we both have kids. And yeah, we're at totally different part of the life now, and had to reconnect, and it's pretty cool.
Much older now, definitely. Though wiser, I would say.
Yeah.
Hopefully, right? Hopefully. Yeah. What they say, the older you get, the wiser you get, right? But they say age like fine wine, but I don't know. Let's see.
You never know. I never know. So we came from like a Catholic school for all boys. So we come from some rowdy beginnings, you know. So reconnecting here, it was really cool to find out that Francis is now a financial coach. He works with Primerica.
Yes.
And so he deals with a lot of investments, and he is pretty much the expert when it comes to a lot of stuff that we want to learn about here at the 9/10 podcast. So welcome, Francis. If you could make a real quick introduction about what you do and how you help folks out.
So my name is Francis. I have been with the company for about 6 years now. So what I do is basically make sure that my clients are in a better position in the future. So obviously it doesn't matter what state of life they're in. What we do and what I love about it is the company will help you. It doesn't matter, like I said, whatever income you're making. Right? We just want to make sure that if anything does happen to you, that you have money that you can leave behind for your family. And at the same time, when you retire, you have money too. So we want to make sure that you have money in all aspects of your life.
Okay. So you mentioned you help folks, even if just a regular guy making median salary, would he be still able to invest
Yes, definitely.
in
And
anything,
that's the best part
anything
about the
worthwhile?
company. Yeah, that's the best part about the company is even if you are, like you said, regular Joe, 9 to 5, making whatever income you're making, most important part of it is that you are going to be secure in the future. So we wanted to put you in that place. And even if you're just putting a small amount, you could definitely start. So we can cater to those people too.
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the misconceptions out there for folks. It's not really taught in schools how to manage money and stuff. So there's a big misconception out there that you'd have to have a good amount of money in order to start investing.
Yes, that is the biggest misconception out there. And every time you talk to somebody, they say, I don't have money to put away. And when you start talking to them, all of a sudden they're like, so you're telling me I could put this much amount to start with? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, you could definitely start with us just with the small amount. And the further you talk to them about it, the more that they're like, okay, so I can do this. I can get this started. And even if they have, like I said, old retirement accounts, we can also help them out with that.
Okay. So with like investing, is there a way to, like, for a regular Joe to eventually become a millionaire through compounding?
Yes. So obviously not right away, right? So it's not a quick scheme where you become a millionaire right away. It takes time for your money to grow, as like all aspects, right? So the most important thing is you are putting money consistently and making sure that money grows. Similar to how your 401k works, right? Or 403b. And people are putting money into it and then they retire with that money. But the best part about it is there are different investments out there other than a 401k or 403b. And it, depending on what you're going to use it for, is what we're going to open it with.
Okay. So other than working with you, of course, what advice would you give someone, first of all, in their 20s, someone who's just starting out? What would your advice to them be for their investment career to start it out?
So what I would suggest is, especially now, I believe that the younger crowd and the younger generation, they're much more educated than we are. If I knew what they do now, definitely I would have been starting putting money away. So what I would suggest is, hopefully you don't have a lot of debt yet, right? I know when we're in college, there's companies out there offering credit cards and whatnot, right? And what I would suggest is put money away.
Not get into that.
Yeah, not to get into that. There you go. So if the investments are compounding, imagine the interest rates are compounding too. So that's how it is on the flip side. So you want to make sure that you're financially secure in the future. But I know initially when you're young, you're thinking, you know what, I just want to enjoy my life. So what's the term now? YOLO or FOMO, like the term nowadays. But if you think about it, do it on the flip side and say, you know what, later in the later years of your life that you are financially secure and you get to retire earlier than your plan. You just have to be consistent about it. And I know in their early 20s, they have a lot less responsibilities at that point.
Yeah. So steer away from all the YOLO.
If you can. Obviously, you're young. You want to check your bucket list while you're young and you're healthy, hopefully.
Yeah.
But as you get older, obviously our health declines. We can't avoid that. But I know people out there that even now that they're older, they're much healthier than when they were younger, right? But for the majority of people out there, it's usually vice versa.
What would you say someone in their 30s?
So in their 30s, they're hopefully done with their school, right? So they're starting off their career at that point. Or maybe around in the 30s is usually when nowadays families are starting in the 30s. Used to be back then, you were expected to have a kid by 25 or 20 when you're younger, but especially in our culture.
Later and later.
Yeah, so right now I think it's becoming later and later because people are starting to establish more of their career at that point, or they're getting started in their career because they just finished school. It really depends on what spectrum you're in. At that point in time, they have a lot more money that they can put in, or they're starting to have families. So they're starting to think, you know what, I have to start putting money away for my kids' college.
Okay. And then what would you say to someone in their 40s that hasn't started yet?
So in their 40s,
is there hope?
Yes, definitely. You can work with any age, even someone in their 60s or 70s, because usually when you sit down with somebody in their 60s or 70s, you would think they're already retired. right? They're financially secure and they have everything in place. But there are people out there that they don't know exactly how that feels, because what ends up happening is they go back to work. Their retirement money runs out and the money that they're getting is not enough, their Social Security. So they end up going back to work. So the way I say it is, doesn't matter what age you are. Most important thing is, if you have money that you can put away, then put that away. That way you have something to invest with. It doesn't have to be big, like I said, right? Just get started. So in our 40s, usually, well, because we are in our 40s, right? So in our 40s, usually you start thinking about your retirement.
So do you work with folks that are also older?
Yes. So across the board, somebody who's 18 years old to somebody who's 70 something.
Even if they're 70, there's something to look forward to there as far as investing? Or
yes, there is. Because depending on the client, you are going to be talking to them about how they want to manage their money, right? So if they have just money just sitting down somewhere and it's not doing anything for them, and they're like, you know what, I don't know anyone that I could talk to where I could put money away, right? So definitely we could work with them and say, okay, how do you want to work with your money? What are your plans? Are you planning to leave it to your kids or your grandkids, or are you planning to just grow your money and then hopefully have disposable income or something that you can have every month that could come into you? That way it's much easier for you to afford things out there other than getting money from Social Security. Then we could definitely set that up for them, however their goal is.
What kind of avenues do you usually use for investing your clients?
So it depends on how you want to look at it. So whatever spectrum they're in, right? So there's retirement accounts out there, and then there's also college funds. And then if they're business owners, then we can also work with them with their 401k, 403bs, and depending on the IRA, and then also annuities. So those are different avenues that we can work with. And then, like I said, it's not like a cookie cutter type where you talk to somebody and they say, okay, it's this, right? It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You have to really look at their risk tolerance, or how scared they are of the market, or how they're thinking, you know what, I don't think I can put money into it because the market is up and down, it's volatile, all that stuff. So you really want to look at the person as a whole and go from there.
Yeah. Okay. So you sit down with them and decide with them.
Yes. So I sit down with them, and then they pretty much talk to me about what they're, first of all, I ask them, okay, how much money are we talking about in terms of you're able to put away, right? Something that would not affect your monthly budget. What are your goals in the future? What do you plan to do 5, 10 years from now, or 3 years from now? What are you planning to do with that money? Because some people have concrete ideas on where they're going to use their money in. Right. But there are also people out there that say, I don't know, I just wanted to put money away, but I also wanted to grow my money. But the thing is, I don't know what's enough when I talk to somebody that when it comes to investments, because I'm thinking 6 figures, 7 figures, I don't have that money. But I tell them, listen, we can start off with whatever money you have and then go from there. Some people would say, I want to put money away for my kids' college. Right. And some people would say, I want to put money away for my retirement. So it really depends on what goal they have in the future, and then we can go from there.
How do you feel about Bitcoin and crypto? Have you messed around with it much? Or?
So I would say with Bitcoin and crypto, like I said, I'm not really an expert on that. But what I would say is it's too volatile of a market to put money in. If you're looking long term, right, obviously everyone has their own cup of tea. But what I'm saying is, if you're planning to put that for retirement, and it's so volatile where it's really going up and down, next thing it's down, you're not really betting your money in a retirement account like that, right? So you want to make sure that you're putting more long-term when you're putting money away. Like I said, if everyone has their own cup of tea, if you want to put money there, by all means, right? But what I'm saying is, if you're planning long-term goals, then that's more of an avenue that you're not really.
Okay. All these big players now are starting ETFs. Yes. For crypto and Bitcoin. Would that be something you would consider in the future, or would that be a safer play?
Again, like you said, the big players, right? So when you're talking about the big players, they have more disposable income compared to somebody that's just working 9 to 5. So if we're working with majority of the population, it really depends on the person's budget, right? So the way you look at it, because if you're going to say, you know what, this person is doing it, and then next thing doesn't work for you, then you're going to say, I just burned this much money. So what you're going to do is obviously work with the professionals and let them help you guide the way to where you want to put your money in, rather than just getting off of somebody and say, hey, you know what, this person's a big player, let me copy that person. But again, work with people that have been doing this, that are professionals, and then that way we can at least guide you. Or like I said, if it fits in your income, or it fits your style, or it fits your lifestyle, like I said, then we'll go from there, right? But it's not going to be a cookie cutter where, hey, you know what, this person's doing, let me do it too. I wouldn't really suggest that.
In 2025, for just a regular Joe, let's say, who's just has a regular job, what's a simple startup portfolio that would be good for that guy? Just something simple for 2025 that he can be consistent about and would have a good payoff at the end.
Okay, so the way we look at it is, again, when we say something like someone with a regular job that's making a regular income.
Yeah.
When you talk to a person, it really depends. When you talk to the person, you get to decide and go from there. Because somebody could say, I am not scared of the market. Or somebody could say, you know what, I'm not really into investments. Or somebody would say, I'm okay in the middle. Mm-hmm. So there's no such thing as a great portfolio for a certain person, I would say, right? Because I know everyone's goal in the end is to have money, like you said, right? But we also wanted to make sure that the client is comfortable in where we're putting their money in. And then that way, in the end, they know exactly what the plan is. And so that when we review that with them, they're going to be like, okay, so that's what we talked about before. This is where I'm at now. And then this is how much money I have. That way, the expectations are not going to be like, I'm supposed to make this much money, right? And the next thing, it's not growing that much. And again, like I said, the market, you cannot really predict how it is. But the best part about it is we have history that we could look at in terms of the S&P and all of that. But again, not one person is the same cookie cutter portfolio. So I cannot really suggest anything in terms of this is the best one for this type of person. This is the best one. Because when you really talk to them, you see the person as a whole, and then they tell you exactly what they want to do.
So you definitely got to get into a conversation and really talk it out in order to find out what's going to be best.
Because when you talk to them, if you talk,
go ahead.
And they have families too, even the spouse or the partner or the wife may have a different idea with that money.
Right.
So it's not just, if it's one person, then yeah, that's easy. But when you're talking to somebody that has a spouse or wife, or even money that they're putting away for their families, then that becomes a little bit more complicated than just, hey, you know what, I'm just going to put my money here. Okay.
I'm a real estate agent. How do you feel about real estate in 2025?
That's more your forte, right? That's more your forte because you're real estate. But the way I look at it is in terms of investments, there are fees. But when you pay those fees, that's pretty much it. Obviously, the market is up and down. But for real estate, the way I look at it is you don't really own the estate per se until you pay it, correct? And even then, you're still paying for the land, so the property tax. So there's a lot more money that's involved per se. So let's just say somebody is working a 9-to-5. Do they have that kind of income to put it in real estate? Now, granted, if they're buying that for their family, that's a different story. But if we're talking about investing into a real estate, do they have that disposable income to put money into that? Because somebody who's working 9-to-5 and has a family, they're thinking more long term. They're thinking, you know what, I want to put money for my kids' college, right? What can I use as a vehicle in order for me to put money into it that would benefit my kid in the future? Would I rather buy a real estate and use that for my kids' college in the future? Because remember, we are also thinking about liquidity. How liquid is the real estate that we are able to switch it off right away? Right? Let's just say I need money right now. Can I sell my house like right now?
Yeah.
Different people that have different disposable incomes may have different ideas on where they want to put their money in. But down the road, if you wanted to invest in real estate, by all means, right? Because you want to diversify where your money is too.
Do you advise your clients as far as real estate also, or no?
No, not necessarily. Because like I said, that's more of, it depends really on what the client is talking about. What I just talk to them about is what your plans are in the future. So in terms of real estate, what house are they planning to buy? Is that what you're talking about, or what location?
No, just investing. And they ever ask for advice or for real estate as well? Or
Okay. Yeah. So when it comes to that, I just ask them, can you afford it? That's the most basic question. Right. And
what are the things that folks need to know that aren't really so obvious or right off the bat that they need to know before getting into real estate? Like you said, all these hidden costs that aren't so obvious right away.
when you're looking at it from a standpoint of when you're buying a house, first of all, you got to get approved, right? That's just general facts out there that you have to get approved for the loan.
Right.
So when you're looking at that, do you have enough money to begin with? So keep in mind, other than that, you're already thinking of income of your family as a whole, right? Or as an individual. But if you have a family, you're looking at it from a standpoint, okay, how's my family doing so far financially? And are we paycheck to paycheck, or do we have disposable income that we can put away? Or do we have enough money in our investments that we make sure that in the future our kids are good in college, right? Or we have enough money for any emergencies that does happen. You start off from the basics, and the thing is, a lot of families or a lot of individuals overlook that part. Yeah. And then they just jump into, hey, you know what, I want to buy a house right away. But again, you got to start with the basics. You start with the foundation and then go from there. That way you are secure in the future.
How would you describe that, a good foundation?
So a good foundation I would say to have is to make sure that you have money if anything happens to you, right? That's basically the life insurance component of it. Because you want to make sure that if you have a family or if someone is depending on you, that there is money that's going to be left behind for them. Now, I know nobody wants to talk about life insurance. They always say, I'm not going to die. We all are. It's just a matter of how and when, right? So that's really what it is. It comes down to it. It's a matter of how and when. It's not like I'm not going to die. It's not that. The way we look at it is the money that we're going to leave behind is so that our families are going to benefit from it, or whoever our loved ones are, so that they're not going to be struggling if anything does happen to you, especially if you're the breadwinner. Mm-hmm. And if there's two of you, and it's a dual income household, then definitely both of you need a life insurance. And I know nobody wants to talk about it, right? But if you look at it from that aspect and say, hey, you know what, this money that if anything happens to me, there's money here. That's what the main purpose of it is, right? Is the fact that, like any insurance out there, even for car insurance, you want to make sure that if anything happens to your car, that car is going to be covered. Yep. There's car insurance, there's phone insurance, everything has insurance nowadays. But a lot of people are hesitant to get their life insured for some reason. But everything they own, including their phone, is insured. But when you talk to them about, it's okay, I don't want to talk about life insurance, but you talk to them and say, hey, how about your phone? Is it insured? And they say, yeah, it's insured. So why is your phone?
What about your own kids?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, why is your phone insured and not yourself? You're the breadwinner.
Yeah.
And the fact that you are the breadwinner, you are the most important asset in your family because you're the one bringing the income to the family. So that income has to be replaced if anything does happen to you. That's the reason why. Not necessarily if your phone gets insured, if, like I said, by all means, if you have that income, if this gets insured, is this going to make your income? Unless this phone right here is your sole basis of income. Right. And it does AI. There's AI nowadays. So this phone might be working on its own right now. Right. So I can't really say. 20 years in the future, there's probably holograms out there working on its own. Right now, there's AI. But that's the most basic one. Is the foundation is life insurance. Right. And then next thing you know is you want to make sure that there are components in terms of like emergency funds, because the emergencies does happen.
So what vehicles do you put those in, like an emergency fund?
The emergency fund depends exactly on how comfortable they are, right? And how disposable the income is, or how liquid it is. And then we can go from there. Because somebody can say, hey, you know what? I'm putting this emergency income, but I'm planning to use it to buy a house in the future, or planning to buy a car, right? Or somebody will say, I'm planning to put money away for emergencies because I'm waiting for an emergency that's not really happening. So there is an emergency that's not really happening. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's called an emergency, right? But the thing is, like I said, you want to put money away that they have money for any emergencies. And anything like when COVID happened, a lot of people were not they were not expecting that. So no one really has emergency money put away. That just came out of nowhere. It just hit us out of the blue. So with that happening, I think that was a learning curve for a lot of people. And then from there, you go from putting money for retirement. Yeah, putting, there are tiers. You put money for retirement, put money for college, and then eventually fun and games. But I know a lot of people go straight to fun and games, and then next thing you know, there's no money.
What's fun and games, like crypto?
Well, it really depends how you want to do it, right? Some people would say fun and games could be travel. Right. Like I want to travel. I again, FOMO, right? So I want to travel, go to different.
Guilty.
Yeah, that's you. Hey, that's your money, right? At the end of the day, that's your money. You do what you want to do with your money. You do what you want to do with your money. I'm not going to say don't do it, right? Because that's not my role.
Too late.
I can't really say, but the most important thing is we can start today with a plan. Right, and go from there. So money that's been spent, it's been spent. But the most important thing is when you travel, it's the memories that goes with it. Okay, those you can't put a price tag on because I agree. Yeah, you can't put a price tag on memories. But the thing is, we want to make sure that when you come home from your travel, that you don't have a headache because of your debt. That you don't have that you're thinking, okay, I'm okay. I use my money. I come home and I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm in a good place. I'm in a good spot. But again, like I said, it's you do what you want with your money. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you are financially secure also.
Okay, so we got life insurance and then emergency fund and then retirement account. And then after that, maybe college.
Yeah. So it depends, again, on the person, right? Somebody could say, you know what, I'm already 80s, 90s. So they're thinking, what vehicle should I put my money in, right? So some of those, they're not really thinking of college funds at that point, right? So it depends on the person. Or they're thinking, you know what, I'm at this age already. Who am I sending to college? All my kids are grown. But for the most part, you always want to make sure that you have life insurance. While you're building your assets, especially if you don't have any assets to begin with, that's the most important thing to start with. You want to make sure that you have something that you can leave behind for your loved ones, especially if they're depending on you. I know for Filipinos, for our culture, there are individuals and families out there that send money to our country, right, to support their loved ones that go through school and all of that. And I think that's just part of our culture. But again, want to make sure that there's life insurance involved. That way, anything happens to you, there's still money being sent over there.
So no matter what the case, life insurance is the most important.
That's the most basic one, the most basic of basics. That's literally the foundation. Especially if it depends really on what age you are. Right? Somebody who's 100 years old is probably not thinking about life insurance at that point, right? Because depending on how old you are, would they even insure him? I mean, there probably are companies out there that would, but again, at that point, I think the most that they're thinking about is burial. Right, like my family, I don't want my family to be worried about where am I going to be.
That makes sense.
Buried in, right, or if I'm going to be cremated. I don't want them to come out with money out of their pockets just because I didn't have anything put away. I think that's when you're a parent, you think about your kids that they're not burdened, whether they're young or old. So I think majority of the parents, or maybe all parents out there, if, like I said, different people, different strokes, right? They think about their kids all the time, and they want to make sure that if anything happens, that they're good for the most part.
Awesome. Yeah. Everybody, get yourself some life insurance if you don't have any yet. That's the most important, the most basic.
Yes, that's the most basic of basics.
Okay.
That's really the foundation. And then we go from there.
Okay. So what are the kinds of gains possible? What's really possible for a regular person if they manage their money right? What's possible for them to see in the future? And can you give samples that you've experienced?
The only thing I can say is we're going to base it off the S&P. So S&P last year right? It was more than 20, I think 23 to 25, somewhere around there. And then 2023 was...
Really?
Yes, it was somewhere around there. And that's off the S&P 500, right? So that's what 23 to 25. And then the year before that, I think it was like 26. And just based off of that, we can look at that aspect and say, listen, if we're looking at the S&P, then imagine the different portfolios out there. And obviously, just look at that aspect, that if we're thinking, how am I going to invest money, where, like, what is, everybody looks at the S&P and they use that kind of like a ruler or a grading scale, right? Because if we're thinking of my client had this, my client had that, there's no such thing as that you would say you're supposed to make this. No, we can't really predict the future. And that's just how it is. But all we can do is base it off of history. And again, S&P was around that time last year and the year before that too, which is really good. This year, hopefully it is better, right? I think that's all we can wish for, is that it's better or at least just as good. But yeah.
So how much should you save versus invest? What do you feel about saving?
Okay, so really for saving, if you're putting money away, you want to make sure that there's the rainy days, for any rainy days. So you could say 3 to 6 months of income. Somebody could say 3 to 6 months of income. But I know a lot of people are paycheck to paycheck, right? So they're paycheck to paycheck. But at least have something that, let's put it this way. If something happens, any emergencies, even if your car broke down right now, you have liquid money, right? Then you can say, hey, you know what? Use this debit card and charge it to that. Because we don't want to be stranded in the middle of the road because the tow truck driver is not going to tow your car, right? You don't want to be that guy. So you want to make sure that there's money that you can use, at least even if your car broke down. Because from what I'm thinking right now, that's one of the emergencies that I can really think of, especially if you're stranded in the middle of nowhere, that you need this money right away. That's how I look at it in terms of emergencies, because one of the big ones that I can think of an emergency, right? Unless there's something that happened in your house. Let's just say your ceiling broke or your pipes broke and all that, right? So you got to pay for those right away. Then that's also a different story. So think of those scenarios. How much would they really cost? So put that in terms of being liquid. So that way, save up for that. And then once you're okay with that money, then if you have more money that you put away, then definitely invest that money. Because if you're thinking of it from that aspect, you're thinking, okay, if any emergencies happen, I have money now that I can use. Let's just say your wife all of a sudden comes down the stairs like, oh my God, Chris, our pipes broke. Now you're thinking, okay, first of all, we got to do damage control. But the second thing is, how much is it going to cost, right? Right away, we're thinking, how much is it going to cost? So that right away, just think of it that way in terms of having something liquid.
So would you say folks save that amount first before investing?
Yes, I would say save first, because you want to have something that's liquid, something that you can use right away. Because the investments are up and down, right? If you're putting in that way, you don't want your money to be all of a sudden, if it's up, it's better, right? If it's down, also but the way you look at it is save money, not a big amount, just enough. That number, the only person that could say that is yourself. What is that amount? It could be $1,000, it could be $2,000, $3,000. That person, the only person that could say that is you. Someone could say, my emergency account could just be $100. Hey, you know what? I just need something to buy cup ramen or something. It really depends on how you want to look at it, but in terms of emergency money. But if you're really being logical, then depending also on geographically where you're living, the expenses are more expensive, right? So it's not necessarily, I know in California.
I live in California, so everything
more expensive there. The money that you're putting away is obviously different from me. We have to look at it geographically to where you're living. But at the same time, if you have more money that you can put away, then that goes to the investments at that point. Because now you're looking at your retirement or your college funds, whatever plans you have in the future, right? Or you're just trying to just grow your money. So that's definitely the case, but always have something that there is liquid income.
In your experience, is there such a thing as financial freedom?
Okay.
Have you ever seen someone pull that off like they say they do in the internet when they say financial freedom? Have you ever seen that actually take place, or is that a myth?
Okay, so the way you look at it is this. What is your concept of financial freedom? Right? Everyone is different. Somebody could say, if I have $1 million, that's financial freedom for me. Somebody could say, just enough for me to live in the Philippines. That's financial freedom. Because I cannot speak for other cultures. I can only speak for my own, right? I can base it off of that. But again, somebody could say also, financial freedom for me is looking at where I'm at right now compared to where I was before and saying, I've made it. Somebody could also say it that way. Or somebody could say, I believe I have achieved financial freedom because all my kids have gone to college. They're all well off.
Yeah.
So to me, that's financial freedom, right?
Yeah.
So it really depends on how you want to look at
the definition of it.
Yeah, definition of financial freedom. Somebody could say, hey, I'm living at a penthouse in the middle of Chicago or California, and I'm living the life. This is financial freedom. So different people, different strokes. And somebody could also say, I'm having financial freedom right now because I don't have to go back to work. I'm okay with the money that I have, sustaining my cost of living. So to them, that's also financial freedom. So it's your definition, basically, of what it is.
There's someone listening right now that's feeling a little stuck financially, who's not in the best paying job out there right now. Someone who's I would say a lot of folks are in this category that feel like they're just scraping by, working 40 plus hours a week, a 9 to 5, and especially out here in California, feel it's not even enough to survive. Right. Is there any hope for those folks?
Yeah, there always is.
How do you feel?
There always is. And that's
what could they do?
What could they do? There's, like I said, there's always hope, right? Because if you look at it from a pessimistic standpoint, then you're going to end up at that standpoint. But if you're looking at a standpoint of being optimistic and say, listen, I can make it. People could say, I can get another job, right? Or people could say, I have to work with a professional now because I have to know exactly what to do. Because sometimes the things that you think are needs are actually wants. Mm-hmm. And then that's the reason why you don't have money, because your money is actually going to the wants and you think they're needs. Or you think they're actually hobbies, they're actually things that are not supposed to be putting your money in. And the next thing you know, when you really list your budget, oh wow, this is actually not a need.
I'm broke.
Yeah, and then exactly. Then you're looking at it like, okay, so now I'm broke because I'm spending money on things that I shouldn't have spent money on. And again, you look at your disposable income and go from there. Because people out there, sometimes it's not necessarily that they're broke. It's just that the way they're spending their money is not in the right vehicles.
Yeah, because you hear here on the internet, there's folks that are 6-figure incomes. Mm-hmm. And they call Dave Ramsey show and they're saying, I'm still broke. You know what I mean? What would you say to folks like that? And just piggybacking on your last statement.
Well, folks like that, really, when we sit down with them, if they're open to it, then I ask them, do you have a notebook where you actually list your budget in? Okay, because some people are structured that way, where they have an actual notebook or when the bills are due. Or sometimes they just have a board, right? Like a drawing board on the fridge, this is due, right? The garbage is due, this. Now, those are obviously necessities, right? Because those are due. But then you start asking them, let's break it down to the basics. How much are you making a month? Now, when you start breaking it down, and then you're saying, okay, so far this is what you're spending your money in. What else are you spending your money in at that point? So then they start saying, oh, you know what, I spend it here, I spend it there. And then they're like, okay, that's probably one of the reasons. Or they might be putting money in vehicles that they should not be putting money in, right? Some of them, you might be seeing people are overspending on the life insurance. They're paying like $500,000 on a life insurance, right? And it might not be the right vehicle for them to begin with. I know I said the life insurance is important, but is it the right one? Is what we're looking at, right? Or does it fit the profile of the client too? Right? Or are we thinking of he or she is spending money more on shopping than actually paying the bills? And then they say, we're broke. Like I said, different people, different strokes.
Okay, so even the life insurance has to be really custom fit to that person. Otherwise, it could be a liability.
It could be, yes. Because I've seen clients that are saying, why are we broke? And then they're spending like $500 to $1,000 on the life insurance and no investments at all, right? We try to customize that in a way so that they have life insurance and at the same time also have investments, rather than just having it all in a life insurance policy. Now, don't get me wrong, it is important, but you want to make sure that they also have choices rather than just putting it all in one vehicle. And then that way, in the future, they have money if anything happens to them. They have money for any emergencies. And then they have money when they retire. You want to make sure all those aspects are covered. And make sure that they have money.
So it sounds like you really need to talk to someone that knows what they're doing. How do you find that person? Of course, you are that person, right? For everybody listening, give Francis a call. We'll have his information in the description below. But how do you vet someone that really you can be secure in knowing that they have your best interests moving forward? You know what I mean? They're not just trying to make money off you.
So the way I look at it, being a financial coach, I would sit down with somebody and say, listen, the person that really wants to work with you will work with you, no matter how long it is. Right? So I've sat down with clients for an hour or two and all of that, because there's a lot that they have to fix. And again, that's if they're open to it. Now, a lot of clients are going to be like, hey, this is everything. I'm opening like an open book to you. Somebody that's just out there, like you said, trying to make a quick buck. They sit down with you, and next thing they never see them again. They get what they wanted and they're out. They're gone. Somebody who really has the client's best interest in mind will always contact the client and make sure that, hey, everything okay with you? This is what we have so far. They try their best to sit down with them and make annual reviews and say, okay, this is where we're at the moment. Okay, so now, are there any changes? Do you have any more kids? Because sometimes in a year, there's a lot that changes. Their jobs change. Sometimes both individuals, one loses their job or maybe has a better paying job, right? So now you have to cater to them and make sure that, okay, so your income is now higher. So let's see exactly what we can help you with. Whereas somebody that's just out there just making a quick buck, they come in and they say, this is what you need. You know, have a good day. And that's about it.
Yeah.
Right. You want to connect to your clients.
So that's how you can tell.
Yeah. You connect to your clients. And actually, the clients could actually tell too. If you're a client, you could tell if someone has the best interest in mind. Right. Somebody who's just on their phone and let's just say, come on, hurry up.
Yeah, you can smell it a mile away.
I have someone else that you're thinking to yourself, am I not important to you? Obviously, different. When you're talking to somebody else, then that's different too. That might be your family member. It might be an emergency, right? But at the end of the day, when you're with your client, your focus is on them.
So we'll just make it easier. Just call Francis over here and he'll sort you guys out. Instead of looking for, you might find the shyster out there. I already found the best
all you gotta do is just focus on working, and then we take care of the rest. All you gotta do is just go to work. That's what some of my clients say. The nurses, they say, you know what, we don't know anything about this, but good thing you're there, right? You take care of the rest. We'll take care of just work. It's a good feeling when you have a deeper understanding with your client, because they refer more clients to you at that point, and then go from there, right? And obviously, they believe in you, they're trusting you, your expertise, and pretty much, again, the mutual understanding between you and the client.
Yeah. So, like I said, folks, you can see this guy is got your back. Definitely be getting you some clients from this one, bro. So, one more thing, real basic. What should folks do every time they get a paycheck? What's the number 1, 2, 3 steps every paycheck you got to do? Be financially prudent.
So when you get your paycheck, make sure you have everything paid, right? Your bills and all of that. Now, from a standpoint of putting money away for yourself or your family, and then also have money put away for spending, because that way it entices you to work more, right? Because you're going to say, I'm not just working to pay my bills, because a lot of people are getting burnt out because of that, because they're saying, I'm just working to pay my bills.
Yeah.
But if you're putting money away to spend it on a hobby, let's just say, I don't know what your hobby is. It could be shoes. It could be anything, right? It could be buying magazines. I don't know, right? Books or podcasts or whatever, right? You spend money on, or it could be Netflix. I don't know. The fact of the matter is, if you're paying yourself, that also makes you enjoy, not necessarily enjoy, but at least you're looking forward to something when you get paid, right? Because you're paying yourself too. Now, what I would suggest, though, is not to use that as majority of your paycheck. Okay, not to make sure that, hey, 80%.
What's a good percentage for that part?
It depends on the person, because if majority of the paycheck already goes to bills, then you have only a small amount.
Guilty.
No, you only have a small amount. If all of that paycheck goes to that, then hey, you could put $20 in yourself or something to watch a movie. I don't know. I can't really say. But the way you look at it is this. Okay, it gives you peace of mind when all your bills are paid, right? Let me ask you, if all your bills are paid, it gives you peace of mind, right?
Definitely.
The second thing is, let me ask you this. If you're able to put money away, not for yourself first, but for your family, right? Because you have a family. You're able to put money away for that, any emergencies or any for their kids' college and all that, that also makes you go to sleep well at night, correct? And then the last thing is, if you are also able to put money for yourself, for your own hobby, once we do all three, doesn't that make you happy?
Yeah, I'm happy camper. Definitely.
Yeah, there you go. You're a happy camper, because now you're thinking, okay, all the bills are paid. I have money to put away for my kids, or my kids' college, I meant, or any emergencies. And I also have money for my own hobby. Now you're thinking, wow, you're able to do that? Yeah, look, first of all, we got to look at your paycheck first. If you're okay with that, that is.
So, yeah, I like that. That's real simple. Just first pay off the bills, second put something away, and then third have something left over to have fun with.
Just make sure that's not inverted, okay? Because I know a lot of people, they invert that, and they make sure they pay themselves first, right? And then the last thing
I gotta flip that triangle on its head.
Make sure you don't flip that around, okay? Make sure you're on the right track on that.
That's why you're on the show, man. You gotta tell me how to do it. That's why y'all gotta. Yeah, that's why y'all got to call Francis, because he's going to tell you what's up.
And I always tell my clients, sometimes you might not like what you're going to hear, but somebody has to say it.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like what you're telling me. I have to invert that pyramid. Oh, man.
Yeah, somebody has to tell you, because somebody has to really tell you, listen, you're not doing the right moves, man. You're not doing the right moves, man. We got to put you back in track.
Hey, if it wasn't for guys like you, we'd all be in the better. Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate that. In your experience, what's the most common mistakes financially that you see?
Actually, there's a lot more than just one.
Okay, the top 5 or whatever.
So, one could be maxing out on the credit cards. Right, that's majority out there, because we got to admit it, people's income sometimes goes all to credit cards, right, to pay that off. Now, again, if you're able to avoid it, hey, right, then again, that could be different, again, for different types of people.
Number 1 is credit card.
Number 1, credit card, or debt, right, debt as a whole. If you're able to pay that off, then hey, somebody could say, I have a paid off car, but I'd rather buy a new car again and to go back in debt again, right? So now you're back in debt. The car's already paid off. And it's actually working well. But you sold that and you want to buy another car. Different people, they wanted a new car. Hey, by all means.
If you ask me, that's a thing in itself right there.
Yes.
Like the new car syndrome.
The new car syndrome, right? Because you want to say, hey, I want this new car. It's the new model. Like, again, it's fear of missing out, right? I want this new car. But then you're thinking, I already have a paid off car. Why do I have to buy a new car? But then you're also thinking, but I want this new car. So again, the wants become needs, right? All of a sudden, now you're paying a new car, which wasn't even supposed to be in the budget to begin with because that other one is already paid off. So that's just an example, okay? Again, not everyone falls into that.
I got to add one more thing to that. So just for cars in general, I know like when people, the advertising and, you know, the new model comes out, people want it because it's new and it's desirable. But if you know anything about cars, which we're going to go off on a tangent here real quick, all the new cars that are being sold now aren't as good as the cars that were sold 10, 15 years ago. Yes. Yeah. Even let's say like a Toyota right now everyone knows Toyota for reliability, right? I would say a Toyota from 10 years ago is more reliable than a Toyota that's being made now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because a lot of the manufacturers just cut costs. They're trying to cut costs each year. The car, the way it's made is cheaper than the previous year. It's just the way the market or the business works. They have to make the car cheaper each year moving forward because of inflation, their profits, they have to have a margin. So each year that happens, you're looking like 10 years ago, the cars are just more reliable. They're just going to last longer. Even most of the panels, cars now are made out of plastic. Back then, it's made out of steel.
Yeah, they said that, right? They said they built like tanks before.
So yeah, if you are looking at new cars right now, you're thinking about getting rid of your old car. In reality, your old car might just be even better than the new car, just by the way things are going in the car industry.
There you go. So that's a perfect example right there. And again, I'm not really like an expert on cars, right? You may know more than I do when it comes to that. But now, don't get me wrong. If the car is really old and it broke down and you're spending more on fixing the car, then that's a different story, okay? And I know this could be a hot topic, but phones, that's another one, right? Phones.
Yeah, you always got to have a new phone.
You have the new iPhone, right? You got to have the new Samsung or Android, right?
Yeah, and the phone companies make it seem like it's nothing. Like, oh, you just $20 more a month, you get a new phone.
That's
but it's
exactly
another.
It adds up.
Yeah.
It adds up. That could have been $20 that you don't have. And that's the reason why people will say, I don't have any income. I'm like living paycheck to paycheck. So that's just one of the things that we're looking at, like consumables, right? I know eggs nowadays are more expensive probably than the chicken, right?
Oh man, tell me about it. Jeez.
That's what I'm saying. Everything is becoming more expensive nowadays. So if you look at it, and there's a common saying out there, right? Just live within your means, right? You could say that, or sometimes live below your means. If you really wanted to be secure in the future, just delayed gratification. If you say, hey, you know what, my birthday is coming up, maybe put money away, spend it for your birthday or whatever that thing is, or maybe spend it on a holiday or travel or whatnot. But if you're thinking my birthday is coming up and then after the birthday, there's some of my friend's birthday, so we should go there. Come on now, that's not your birthday anymore, right? At this point, there's so many birthdays that you're spending money on. But again, those are the things that people tend to spend money on. And again, the credit cards too. That eats up their budget. The biggest one is, again, the wants versus the needs. And what I could also see from my experience out there is that a lot of people are overpaying for their life insurance and paying for that. And there's also families out there that have so many life insurances. Sometimes you look at it and you think you cost more when you pass away than when you're alive.
You're worth more.
The thing is, though, you have no money put away, so you gotta have money when you're alive too, right? So that's the reason why, like, you have more money, or Typically, some people make a joke out of it, but reality is it kicks in and you look at your budget and say, wow, where's my money going? So really, you gotta review once the paycheck comes in, really have a notebook, write down what days the bills are or when it's due. Set a money for yourself. I don't know. Somebody could put 10%, 20%, $25, $50. I don't know. That depends on you. That way you're looking forward to something because you're thinking, you know what? I have another $50 that I'm putting away for this paycheck. Maybe I'm looking forward to buying this whatever that costs $250. So that's 5 paychecks worth, right? So now you're looking forward to that paycheck coming in because you're putting money away. But that also in itself is delayed gratification.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just the way you're describing it. How do you discipline yourself? What's your own techniques to, let's say you see something, how do you stop yourself?
Okay, so how do I stop myself? Man, that's tough.
Yeah.
How do I discipline myself? So the way I look at it, first of all, the bills are paid, right? From my standpoint, what I try to do is I try to pay a month ahead. So let's just say the rent is due. So I already pay it for next month. Or the car is due, already pay it for next month. That way, if there's any emergencies next month, I don't have to worry about it.
That's a good little hack right there.
Yeah. So that way, if anything, the unexpected happens, then let's just say I lost my job. Or
you don't have to worry about any of that.
The car that I can use to make income is actually still paid. And then the place where I'm staying at, the rent is still paid. So I have a roof over my head and I have a car to travel with. So those two are paid. All right. Yeah. Again, if it does not fit your budget, don't kill yourself out there, right? Trying to do this. But I try to pay ahead. That way I don't have to worry about that. Okay. And then credit cards and all of those, whatever bills, phone bills, and pretty much all the bills. Okay.
Pay it 1 month ahead. Everything.
Yes. I try to.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to copy that. Actually.
Yeah. I try to pay a month ahead. And then that way I don't have to worry about the next month. Okay. So I try to pay that ahead. Now, in terms of putting money away, I also put money away for myself and my daughter. Right. And then that way, if anything happens, that there is money there. Not a big amount, something that just enough. Right. And I also pay myself. Now, this is the hard part though, with the paying myself, right? Because when you're looking at something and you say, wow, I really want this.
Yeah.
I really want this.
I can taste it.
I know. You're like, I'm touching it right now. I really want this. I really, really want this. Right. And you're like, there.
So you're looking at your account, you're like, oh, there's nothing there.
Yeah, so you look at your account, right? And you're thinking, man, I want to get this. Yeah. And you're thinking, okay. But what's really going to stop you is, let's just say shoes. I know being sneakerhead and all that.
Whatever, some Jordans or whatever.
So let's just say Jordans, right? You wear it and you're like, wow, this fits my feet. Man, it looks like that was Space Jam.
That looks so cool.
That looks cool. And then I'm going to show it off to my friends and all of that. Now, what I usually do if I was into shoes, what I would usually do is I would wear it and say, hey, I've worn it.
Put it back. Put it back on the shelf.
I can
take a picture. Right? Take a selfie with it.
Yeah, take a selfie with the shoe and be like, hey, I wore it. If your goal is really just to show off, then say you've worn it.
Yeah, dude. Bro, I'm telling you, man, that sounds cheesy as hell, but you know what? I'm telling you, that's what rich dudes do. That's what they do. You'd be surprised. The richest dudes, they're like the cheapest guys. And that's why they're rich.
That's really what it is, man. Like for me, my poison is perfumes. Like literally like niche. We're talking about like niche indies, all of those, right?
Like a $500 bottle of cologne.
Yeah, like we talked about Borges and we're talking about Xerjoff, we're talking about Bodicius. $500, $1,000 bottles, right?
Really? 1,000? Oh, wow.
Like there's even...
Wait, so you can't just walk into the mall and spray the tester on it. You can't just do that.
But this is the thing though, like for those types of perfumes, you have to go to a specialty store. It's not like something you can just go to Macy's or Nordstrom's or yet Saks Fifth. But if you know your stuff, you go to a specialty store, like sneakerheads, right? They go to a certain store or they line up outside and whatnot. Okay. And I know people will say it's disposable water, right? It's just scented water for perfumes. But again, is that really a want or a need? So what I tend to do is I try to put money away and say, okay, now I have enough money for it. Or maybe I can go to a discounter and buy it off of there. But I don't use, I try my best not to use credit cards to buy that. I use the delayed gratification money to buy and pay into my hobby. That way I'm not paying into my credit cards. Because remember, if your investments are compounding, credit cards are compounding too. So now you're going deeper and deeper in debt.
Okay. What is a good metric for folks to, like, let's say we've been doing this, you and I, we've been working together for 20 years now. What's a good metric for folks to look at and say, I think I should be good to retire? What are some things for them to look at?
Okay. So again, let's just say I don't want to say our age, man. but I said, well, anyway, let's just say we are retired. Because now we're putting our age out there. Do that.
Okay.
So we don't want to put our age out.
I promise. I won't. I promise.
Let's just say we're 21, right? We're 21. But let's just put it this way.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's just say we are 21. Now, if let's just say we're retired, what I would consider for me that I'm financially secure is that my daughter is in a good spot. In terms of, again, some people would say they don't have to go to college, whatever it is for you. So let's just say she is in a good financial spot. Let's just say she was married, she has kids and all that, and she doesn't have to worry about money. Actually, I don't want her to worry about me financially. I want her to worry about her.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I don't want her to worry that, hey, does my dad have enough money? I don't want her to be worried about that. The second thing is my money, and the money that I have right now, is it enough to sustain my lifestyle? If the answer is yes, then I would say, okay, I'm in a good spot. If the answer is no, then we all know where that goes. Somebody could say, you know what, I might go back to work again because I'm not able to sustain my lifestyle. Just not a lifestyle per se, like the rich lifestyle. We're talking about basic lifestyle. Okay, is it able to sustain the roof over my head? Is it able to sustain the food that I'm eating? Is it able to sustain for me to travel somewhere in terms of car-wise, if I'm still able to drive, that is? Or if I'm in let's just say, a facility, is that enough to sustain that? So when you look at it from that aspect and then say also, do I have enough money for any emergencies? Right? Do I have enough money for that? So that I would say would be in a good spot in terms of seeing and thinking, okay, my immediate concern is my family, of course, right? Are they in a good spot? And then next is obviously me. But some people would say, put yourself first, then your family, which is, again, a different perspective.
It just depends on you.
It just depends on you.
That's just, yeah. Definitely. Do you by any chance have an MBA?
No, I don't.
You don't?
No.
Okay. This is just a random question I ask all my guests. How do you feel about MBAs?
By all means, if you can pursue it, go ahead. My dad before said, I can't give you any money. When they say usually inheritance, right? That's the word, inheritance. So I'm not going to give you something to inherit. The only thing I'm going to give you to inherit is education. That's what he told me, and I've carried that throughout my life. So I've always pursued higher education. So if somebody has the time, the resources to pursue their MBA, by all means, go ahead. It's always a good thing. The person is educated in terms of whatever knowledge or career they're trying to pursue. Go ahead. No one's really going to stop you on that. I believe in higher learning.
Right on. Cool, man. I think that answers my questions for now. I really appreciate you coming here, man, and letting us know about how to become a millionaire when we retire, essentially. So yeah, appreciate your time, man. And we'll have all Francis's information in the description below. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see y'all next time. Peace.
Oh man, those were some hard truths that I definitely needed to hear. Please let me know in the comments what you guys learned in the podcast. I also want to know what you guys are planning for your retirement. Would you do anything differently than what Francis recommends? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for tuning in to the 9/10 podcast, where possession is 9/10 of the law. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Peace!